I'm here today to answer some questions for you. Firstly, what is the production code? And secondly, why is it important? When Hitchcock moved to Hollywood, he found that there were restrictions already in place and had to adapt his filmmaking methods. These restrictions, which will be explained, were strict and unrelenting, thus shaping every film to come out of Hollywood. When Hitchcock arrived in Hollywood, there was a very firm system in place and 5 major studios held power, but the relationship between the movie industry and the public was unstable. Indeed, much was going on in the 1920s in America to find a form of censorship that would function. Many attempts were haphazard and didn't stick. As public relations failures mounted, the MPPDA, directed by Will Hayes, tried to establish the movie industry as being of a moral middle-class standard and a form of art and industry to be taken seriously. Finally, in 1927, a document was produced called the Don'ts and Be Carefuls. It listed as follows 11 subjects that were not to be included in films at all. Pointed profanity by lip or title. Any licentious or suggestive nudity in fact or silhouette. The illegal traffic in drugs. Any inference of sex perversion. White slavery, the sex relationship between the black and white races. Scenes of childbirth in fact or silhouette. Children's sex organs. Ridicule of the clergy, or willful offence to any nation, race or creed. The document also listed 25 subjects that filmmakers must treat with care so as to be tasteful. Use of the flag, international relations, arson, the use of firearms, theft, robbery, safecracking, the dynamiting of trains, mines and buildings. Brutality and possible gruesomeness. The technique of committing murder by whatever method. Methods of smuggling, third-degree methods, actual hangings or electrocutions as legal punishment. Sympathy for criminals, attitude towards public characters or institutions, sedition, apparent cruelty to children or animals, branding of people or animals, the sale of women or a woman selling her virtue. Rape or attempted rape, first night scenes, man and woman in bed together. The deliberate seduction of girls, the institution of marriage, surgical operations, the use of drugs, titles or scenes having to do with law enforcement or its officers, excessive or lustful kissing. But this document was more a strict guide than legal obligation. Some films were still displaying or presenting subjects that created public relations issues, particularly with the European cultures. Despite improvements in the American film industry's public relations, there still came a point where in 1930, the MPPDA, with the help of the Catholic Church, produced the production code. While keeping some of the points from the Don'ts and Be Carefuls, it expanded most as to exert better control over the content of films. This was to be enforced by the PCA, formally created in 1934 and headed by a Catholic, Joseph Breen. An all-new, legally binding contract, the code enabled the PCA to review screenplays and remove any offensive material. So, what did the code cover? Everything. Well, almost everything. And rather than being honest with the industry, the code used the argument that films had a moral obligation to uphold and improve society as a reason to impose these restrictions. Audiences' moral standards must not be lowered by films. Evil is never to appear attractive. Sympathy is not to be thrown to the side of crime or with a person who sins. Good and evil are never to be confused. Law, natural or divine, must never be belittled or ridiculed. Courts must not be presented as unjust. Presentation of crimes against the law must not throw sympathy towards the criminal, nor with the crime against those who punish it.
Oh my God, are you okay?
Killed. Good night. Thanks.
What?
Generally, no plot or theme should ever side with evil over good. Comedies must never make fun of good, innocence, morality, or justice. No plot should be constructed as to leave the question of right or wrong foggy. No plot should throw sympathy towards sin, crime, wrongdoing, or evil. No plot should present evil alluringly. With drama, little care is needed to be taken with murder, theft, and other crimes, as by their very nature they repel. However, real care needed to be taken with sex sins, crimes of heroism, banditry, revenge, and organised crime, as by their nature they attract. Love triangles in their presentation should not undermine the institution of marriage or the sanctity of the home. Adultery is never fit for comedic presentation, should not appear justified.
Sharlena, how could you?
I'm sorry. It was just one time.
That?
Seduction and rape should not be introduced as subject matter, are never fit for comedy, and where essential, should not be presented in detail. Sex perversion or inference is forbidden. Scenes of passion must only appear when necessary, must not be explicit in action or vivid in method, and presentation must not excite the audience.
And he moves, but this time he doesn't stop. He shifts onto his elbows so I can feel his weight on me, holding me down. He moves slowly at first, easing himself in and out of me. And as I grow accustomed to the alien feeling, my hips move tenderly to meet his.
Scenes deliberately meant to excite are wrong. Pure love is a rightful subject, but the passion arising from it is not. Impure love between a man and a woman is to be presented as clearly wrong and is not a matter for comedy. Impure love must not be comedic, must not be presented as attractive or beautiful, nor to arouse passion or morbid curiosity, and must not be presented as right, nor vivid in detail. Murder must not be presented frequently, nor in detail. The technique of murder must not be presented in a way to inspire imitation. Brutal killings are not to be detailed. Revenge killings must not be justified, and dueling must not be presented as just. Criminals must not be made heroes, and methods of committing crime must not teach how a crime can be committed. Crimes against the law must never be presented in a way that throws sympathy to the crime, nor inspires the audience to imitate the crime. The use of liquor must only be presented when essential to the plot or character development. Vulgarity should never be used as comedy. Vulgar expressions should be cut unless necessary.
Shit. Ooh. Oh, fuck off, bitch!
Dancing costumes can be cut to permit grace and freedom of movement, but within the limits of decency, and should not be suggestive of nudity. Brothels should never be presented. Bedrooms can become indecent places, so their use should never be comedic, and where sex is suggested, should be kept to the essentials. Ridicule of any faith is not allowed, and ministers of religion should not be used in comedy, nor be presented as villains.
Praise the Lord. Said kneel down, my child, and he healed him, and he was good, and it was great, and it was God.
Fuck the church!
Obscene dances are those which suggest or represent sexual positions or are designed to excite or arouse the audience. Therefore, dances like the can-can and belly dancing are wrong.
Con los terroristas.
And do the Harlem Shake.
As you may have noticed, the majority of the energy put into the production code was focused on the visual aspects of film. This was because sound was only emerging in film at the same time the document was produced. So despite all the restrictions, Hitchcock still had a whole lot of freedom to assault the audience with his soundtracks. With a combination of this and his ability to create spectacular visual and suspense-filled sequences, Hitchcock didn't need to show murder in detail. So, what am I trying to say at the end of all of this? The production code actually helped Hitchcock make his